Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host Jay. I'm here with my co-host Brad.
Jay, what a week of news. We had a CPAC last weekend. We had apparently the Libertarian National Convention was last weekend, and apparently RFK Jr. got one vote of delegates to be their candidate because even libertarians are in on the fact that he's just a grifting piece of shit. And,
so wait, is he the libertarian?
No.
Oh
no! They're like he's not. They're like, we know you're a poser. Like we're totally not. We're totally not choosing you to be our representative. In the election.
Which guy did they put in who doesn't believe in seatbelts?
I have no fucking clue. Who knows? Who knows? Like it's worth paying attention to.
Well, he'll get less than Vermin Supreme, so it's fine.
And then we had a primary contest in the Republican Party.
We did, in fact,
this past weekend.
Did you watch live, Brad? Did you watch live?
I'm going to tell you that I didn't. The call was closed. Polls closed at 7 p.m. And the call was made by NBC at 7 p.m. and 7 seconds that Trump won the South Carolina primary, as everybody expected. But Nikki Haley, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to ask you what the percentage was. What was the percentage?
Well, that's what I was going to get into, is that Nikki Haley in her I guess concession speech made a good point in that, you know, she's like, hey, I'm pretty decent at math, and she's like, you know, we got 40%, which is not 50%, but it's also not just a small insignificant number of people. Trump got, I think, 59 point something percent of the vote, and Nikki Haley got like 39.2 or just something along those lines.
He walked away with 59.8%, and Nikki Haley walked away with 39.5%.
Right. So, and she's right. I mean, again, we've talked about this for several weeks now, is that Trump is running as a de facto incumbent president in terms of Republican primary politics, and he's only able to get 60%, 70% of the vote in these states, and people are like, oh, that's really impressive. It's not, though, because Joe Biden's getting like 95% of the vote running as an incumbent president in Democratic primaries that have been held so far. And of course, Trump in his victory speech, you know, again, everything's projection. You know, the first thing he said is like, the Republican Party has never been more united. And like, well, I beg to differ, actually.
They've definitely been more united at some point, buddy. Like, I'm trying to find Biden won South Carolina 96.2% of the vote.
Right.
Again, 59% or 58% or whatever to 96.2%. Like, that's where the incumbent is supposed to be.
To put some context into it as well, just to be fair, South Carolina is an open primary state, meaning you don't have to be a registered Republican to vote in the primary, so independents could vote in the Republican primary. Democrats that did not vote in the Democratic primary a couple weeks ago could vote in the Republican primary. So I'm sure that a lot of Haley's support was probably independents and Democrats as well.
Sure.
So it may be a bit skewed. But again, like, if you're an incumbent, you should be walking in there as essentially the only dude on the ballot and strutting all over it, instead of having to care and like having to even acknowledge that this other person exists. And Nikki Haley has said that she's going to continue to stay in. And I think Rachel Maddow said it best on Saturday, where she said Nikki Haley's now running as the understudy to Donald Trump. Like, she's basically there in case something happens to Donald Trump, like, you know, if he gets convicted of a felony.
Yeah. Or dies.
Or drops dead. Yeah.
I mean, look, he's old. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but like, he's old. Look, I think it's pretty pathetic. Again, I'm not impressed by the 59.8% as an incumbent. Like, that's ridiculous. To your point, yes, it is an open primary. But here's the problem. Were all of the primaries open primaries so far? No. And the percentage that Trump has won every single primary has been roughly about 55 to 59%. So this is in line.
I think Iowa, he got up to like 70 or something. Or no, it wasn't that high. No, it wasn't that high, because DeSantis also is still in it in Iowa. So no, you're right.
No,
I think Iowa, he got like 55. You're right.
Iowa, he won 51%. He has not. I don't think he's cracked 60%. I think this South Carolina race is the highest that he's at 50. What did I say? 59.8%. So again, anywhere just over 50%, like as far as I'm concerned, anything below 90% is a bad showing. Like if you said, okay, well, in that first Iowa race, you had a lot of people running against him, right? You got DeSantis, who's like a big name. You had Haley. You had Vivek, who had a little bit of a ramp up there, right? Like people were considering him and everything else. You know, like Republicans were pretending to at least to make themselves feel less racist for a hot second. So I can understand that first race being split more, right? I understand Iowa, maybe he just wins it by 51%, maybe 60%, right? Like I get that. But there's no reason after that first race when all of those people dropped out and it was basically just him and Nikki Haley, he shouldn't be just winning by just over 50%. That's ridiculous. I think it's something like 40+% of Nikki Haley voters are saying they are never Trumpers. They will not vote for Donald Trump. Now,
well, and that's the thing is that even like if this was a normal contested primary, then Trump would be doing pretty good. And more than likely, at this point, people would start to get out of his way because it's clear that he is the front runner. And then you would see support consolidate behind him. But this is not a normal primary in many respects. And you're right. Like, will he capture some of that Haley vote? A decent chunk of it? Absolutely. Yeah, he'll have a lot of those Republicans that'll move over to him when he's actually the nominee. It's time to vote in general. But to your point, there's a lot of Republican voters who either may vote for Biden or more likely just stay home or maybe even vote for a third-party candidate. Either which way. Like normally I hate third-party candidate voting because it typically disadvantages Democrats, but it really does seem like any third party that's out there that's a more conservative, moderate is going to actually harm Trump in this instance because Democrats seem to be pretty united behind another Joe Biden term, even if, vocally, not everyone's too happy about it.
Right. And as we'll learn later, black people's support for Joe Biden is eroding. And Trump's picking them up with sneakers.
I mean, he should have Joe Biden should have come out with the aviator ones to combat the Trump shoes. If
only he thought like a cheap salesman, he too could have done that. Now look, here's a weird statistic. I ran the numbers. I sent this to you and Andy. It's a little macabre, but it is a factor. Look, a big swath of the Republican base is the boomer generation, right? On average, I found a real-time U.S. baby boomer death clock on the internet, which is fucked up.
That's my new homepage.
Yeah, it's like, let me just check. Oh, still dying.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible person in Gen X. So real-time U.S. baby boomer death clock. These are people born between 1946 to 1964. On average on that site, it says that the daily rate of boomers that are dying, this is just in the U.S., not worldwide, is 5,727, right? Boomers dying every day. There are 251 days until the election, right? Now, of course, it's a couple of days, give a couple of weeks for early voting, but until election day, where the vast majority of people vote. 251 days until election day from today. That is roughly 1.4 million boomers will be dead between now and then, right, at this same rate, which, again, very macabre, but I have a point besides just pointing and going, ha-ha, right? Like, that's fucked up. So let's say that 60% of boomers, and I think I'm actually being rather conservative on that, 60% of boomers vote Republican. I'd bet it's closer to about 70%. But let's say 60%. That still means that 862,486.2 boomers will be dead that would otherwise vote for Republicans between now and election day. The Trump base is shrinking. It's not growing. This is the reason for this conversation. Like, Donald Trump is losing more people a day than he's gaining with tennis shoes and whatever other weird reach outs he's trying to do to get like young people and minorities. He's not gaining enough of them, right? His base is basically where it is, like on a maximum level, but then it's now it's shrinking. It's been shrinking ever since 2016, arguably, right? Yeah, of course you're going to pick up some young people here and there, but you're losing so many of your core base, which are of the boomer age. You're in a world of trouble. He can't afford to lose 800,000 people from voting for him.
As we've pointed out many times over the years, it is a tragic irony for Republicans, but one that I find hilarious, that if they actually embraced immigration from the South, it would actually be a huge shot in the arm for that party, most likely.
Yeah, it might be. But it's not just immigration. They would have to give up. Look, it's the same thing with older black folks. There's a lot of, and not even just older, there's a lot of conservative black people. But they can't bring themselves to vote for Republicans because Republicans are so openly racist. Right? I know, like, if you go online, there's a bunch of, like, bots and other generally stupid people go, oh, all these black people are leaving the plantation. And I'm like, cool. Again, talking to us like we're slaves is really not the way to get us to, like, come to your side. I don't know if you get that.
I don't know, Jay. I don't know if you listen to Donald Trump, but he says that him getting arrested actually endears him to the black voters.
We do love a mugshot. That's true, my people. We just can't get enough of criminals. Yeah, dude. That's really weird. It's a really weird thing to say. I know that he's like, the Republican Party has been sort of caught paying a lot of, like, young black musicians and stuff like that, kind of getting them on their side, or like social influencers that are young and black. But, like, dude, black people aren't dumb. Like, we see through the bullshit. It's like, okay, the girl who was on the white chick who was, like, kind of stupid and, like, Catch Me Outside, that chick, like, we don't identify with her. Like, she's not a part of our culture. One, she's white. But, like, we don't identify her as part of our culture. Like, oh, we have to do what she's suggesting, right? Like, that doesn't do anything for us. Like, black people like you or they don't, and they are not, I would argue, when it comes to politics, are not as easily influenced as white Americans are. Like, I would argue they're not. Black women are far better about their voting record than white women are. That's why Taylor Swift is a coveted person.
They get the double whammy of having to deal with shitty policies for both black people and for women simultaneously. From
that is correct.
So no duh that they're,
yeah, right. And if they're a lesbian, they're a triple threat. Like, come on, man. Like, my God. So it's but at the same time, white women, as quote unquote women in general, right? Like, obviously that includes every woman, but white women, when they talk about, like, you know, politics for women, that's normally aimed at white women. Mm-hmm. They vote against their interests all the time. They do. They're the reason that Donald Trump won in 2016, because enough of them in the suburbs were like, maybe this guy's not so bad.
And yet
they turned fully in 2020 on him.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but he did an interview the other day with Bret Baier on Fox, so a home game for Trump essentially. And Bret Baier asked him about his hemorrhaging support with suburban women, and he's like, "What's your plan to get you lost suburban women in 2020 and you lost the election. So what's your plan to get these folks back into the hold?" And instead of answering the question, he yelled at Bret Baier and tried to claim that he won that he did lose 2020. I'm just like, okay. You're fixated on the wrong thing, my dude.
Yeah, like, you might want to concentrate on A and not Z. Yeah. That's not true. But look, he lost suburban women.
Yep.
Killing Roe v. Wade lost suburban women for Republicans. I would argue that pretty solidly.
That happened after he was voted out. Like he lost those women.
Yeah.
And then the Dobbs decision came down, and now they're even more standing against him.
Right, but that whole thing, the Dobbs decision also spurred a bunch of other shit that's coming behind it. The shit with IVF, the shit that's going on in Missouri that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, right? Like, once that wall fell partially, it opened the floodgates for Republicans. And now Democratic voters are, like, really ginned up to fight this shit really super hard. And white women, suburban voters are like, oh, I see what we did. we should probably not be on this side of history for this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're seeing a lot of them either not vote or just straight up defect. Like they're just like, I'm out. Fuck these guys. And it's only going to get worse for Republicans because they keep coming up with more draconian laws. Because they think that because they, quote unquote, won on that somehow their worldview is being accepted. And they're only listening to people who've already agreed with them. They're trying desperately to kind of stay tunnel focused because they're like, well, we lost, but if we just stay tunnel focused, it'll be okay. And I'm like, dude, turn your head slightly. The room is on fire. Like it's insane, right? I mean, I'll add it to the docket, but there's a group of Republicans now, and it's not a small group, are coming out and they're like, we're going to push to ban casual sex and pornography. Who is that for? Who is it? Like which part of your base is like, yeah. The craziest of the crazies, dude. Because they're trying to say tunnel vision because they hope that if they can just appeal to like the hardcore evangelicals, they'll get enough of them to come out. There's not enough of them. There's not. Like, there's just not, dude. Like, you banning casual sex and porn?
Yeah, talk about a dying breed. The evangelical class is also shrinking, not growing as time goes along.
Right.
So
good. And I'm not even saying religion. I mean, also, but like, I'm not even saying.
I'm saying religion. Good. get rid of it. Yeah.
Like, look, I'm just saying I'm not mentioning it at this moment. I'm fine with it. But like, that's not even religion necessarily shrinking, though it is. But specifically evangelicals, that incredibly hard right wing perspective is losing popularity. I mean, it's weird, and this is kind of a slight tangent, but it's weird. Like, in 2016, 2017, like, do you remember how insane this country was? Like, when was Charleston, right? That was like 2017?
2017, yeah.
Right?
After Trump was in office.
Right. We had a serious, like, wave of the alt-right and Nazis and all this other shit, and that was just, like, commonplace, and people were like, what the fuck is going on? Where is the alt-right now? Where is it now?
At CPAC.
Well, no, that's not even the alt-right. That's just like the Third Reich.
that's literally Nazis that are hanging out at CPAC.
But like, when is the last time you saw any of the alt-right people being like mainstreamed? They're not, right? Because they went so far that people were like, whoa, dude, that's too much. And then all of this other shit happened. He lost in 2020, and they won. And then they also in 2018 they kept 2018, and then in 2020 they kept losing. And when they see a losing strategy, the vast majority of people go, "Pull the fuck back! What is going on?" But the psychos just go, just fucking hyper focus, and hopefully shit will be fine. It's not going to be fine, and you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it in 2024 too. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch. Dude, like, the presidential election is going to be one thing. Watching what happens in Congress is going to be even more interesting. Because they're going to make them pay for it. And they deserve it. So from there, let's jump into Biden. Biden says that a possible ceasefire could be coming as soon as the end of this weekend. We are recording, it's February 27th. He says there's a lot of stuff on the table right now. Most of the agreements between both sides are approved, but there are some gaps. So they're really hoping to actually get a sustained period of calm, and quote that could then take the time to build something more enduring. I hope it happens. I am very skeptical that it will. He does say that the key elements of a deal are on the table. Quote, there are gaps that remain, but I am encouraged Israeli leaders to keep working to achieve the deal. The United States will do everything possible to make it happen. That's great and all, but and also they're saying that this would also have a hostage release as well, and I think that's great. Because obviously those people deserve to go home. But I'm very skeptical that this actually happens. I hope it does, though.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, like when it comes to Bibi Netanyahu, there's always an aspect of Lucy holding the football sort of thing with him there, so you can't really trust him until it's over the line. I actually heard a really interesting proposal. I can't remember who I heard it from or what podcast I was listening to, but they said, you know what Biden could do that would actually be like a fucking baller move?
Okay.
Like, what if he just went to the Knesset and spoke to Israeli lawmakers?
Like Netanyahu does. Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of throw that one back in his face.
Hey, what's up, guys? He could show up like he showed up on Seth Meyers, right? Like that surprise. Yeah. Look, I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't know how well he would be heard. I mean, the thing is, I think
it would be a nice fuck you also Netanyahu for doing that shit to Obama.
Yeah, so. I mean, it was ridiculous, but right. I mean, look, I think that there are plenty of, I mean, if you go to social media would tell you that all Jews are evil and all Muslims are evil, right? Like these are the only two perspectives, which is insane. The reality is Hamas is really terrible and Palestinian citizens are caught between a rock and a hard place. And plenty of Israeli citizens are normal people and their government fucking sucks and they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Now, of course, there are citizens on both sides who agree with their right-wing governments. So let's not pretend. For me, I want to see it happen, but what I really want is not just a ceasefire for a temporary ceasefire. I want this to be done. I want this to be done, and I want an international effort to go in and really help these people. Because the reality is they are leveling that city, and there's like practically nothing left. It's insane.
Well, if this ceasefire, which is they're saying could last for 6 weeks, like that's the first step. Like if you can get fighting to stop for 6 weeks, that gives you an actual avenue to have meaningful discussions with the principals and other people in the region who would need to be involved to help solve that. So, I mean, like I said, I hope that that's correct. That'll be good news, I think, coming into the weekend. And then we can see where we go from there. Again, like you're not going to be able to solve this with just Israel and just the Palestinian authorities. Like you need to get the other countries in the region involved, and they have to have a hand in the solution because,
correct. Again,
it's not possible for Israel to be, to govern the Palestinian folks out there. Like you need almost like a proxy government to help, stand in there. So,
yeah. Look, whatever it takes, honestly. I just want this shit to be over. Like I just do. I think the rhetoric around it has been insane. Like I know it's very cool to just be like the Israeli, like people mixing the Israeli government with Jews and their commentary has just really been awful, right? And I know people are, and they're like, we need to stop this anti-Semitism. They're like, but what? They're all killing Palestinians. It's like, dude, they're not. Okay, like you have to be able to discern from a government versus the people who live there, right? And a religion, right? Like those are wildly different fucking situations. And also at the same time, I need people to separate this idea of all people of the Muslim faith who happen to be Palestinian agree with October 7th. Like that's insane. They don't. Like, or that they're cool with just like bombarding, Israel with bombs. Like they're not all like that. Like it's insane. There is a level of nuance, and as we all know, like nuance is dead, and that's a real fucking problem. And when nuance dies, people die. Like quite literally, when you just paint people with broad brushes, people find it easier to attack them.
Well, nuance is dead generally, and it's even more dead when you involve an open and hostile conflict in the situation. Like that's not an environment where that's going to be fostered.
Hey, but hold on a second. 10% of us believe something quite differently, right? So yeah, it isn't a place for nuance, but that's why people who are not in a hot war, who are talking about this shit, should actually have a level of nuance, and we should talk about those things. Like I will be the first person to tell you that Bibi Netanyahu should have been out on his ass decades ago. Like this guy has no desire to find peace. At the same time, when people are arguing that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, I'm like, I don't know what planet you live on. Like that's incredibly insane to me. Both things can be true, right? And the people in the middle are suffering because of two sets of assholes. That's it.
Yep.
All right. Next up, key witness against Fani Willis crumbles on the stand. This is such a weird wrinkle to this story.
We haven't really talked about this story.
No, we haven't.
Mostly because it's stupid.
It's dumb shit.
Yeah. So basically the background for those that might be unaware. So Fani Willis, who's the district attorney in Georgia, where Trump is currently being tried for election interference, or will be tried soon, had a personal relationship with one of the lawyers that she hired to join the team, the team of prosecutors against Trump, and the Trump side is basically accusing her of self-dealing because she hired this guy and it was nepotism, and so she paid him with state funds, and then she benefited from that because she took trips and stuff with him. Essentially, they're doing whatever they can to get Willis thrown out of the case, saying that there's a conflict of interest. Now, literally not. Like, they're working on the same side. There would only be a conflict of interest if Fani Willis had a relationship with like someone on the defense team or a juror or the judge.
Right.
Like, that would be a conflict of interest.
Right. Exactly.
This is just a unwise decision. Like, should Fani Willis have hired a dude that she was in a relationship with, or
no?
Should she have gotten into a relationship with someone she hired? Of course not. That was very stupid. Should it warrant her getting thrown off the case? No. Like, that's also very stupid.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Yeah, like she has said a number of times on the stand, like, you guys know that I'm not on trial here, right? Like, you guys are on trial. Like, nice try, but like, it's really weird because this person who goes on the stand, key witness, goes on the stand. What is this person's name? Merchant, I think.
His name was Terrence Bradley. He was a former law partner with Nathan Wade, who was the prosecutor that Willis had a relationship with.
Right, and so they were like, he's the big guy, right? Like this is our star witness. It's kind of like the Alexei Smirnov thing. Like he's our star witness. Oh, he got arrested. We didn't need him. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So he's on the stand, and the lawyers are like, so when did you have knowledge of their relationship? You said it was back in 2019. And he's like, I'm just speculating that it was in 2019 because Fani Willis is like, nah, we didn't start dating until 2022. Like, the fuck are you talking about? And so all of this guy's answers are just like, I was just speculating. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. This is your star witness. Like, you don't have any proof.
This is the guy who you're hanging your whole fucking complaint on.
Right. It's just a guy just making shit up. Look, I agree. Should she have had this relationship with this guy? No. Look, you have to make sure that when you go after someone like a former president, you need to be 100% clean on everything. Everything, right? Their argument is very silly. Like, well, her office paid him and then they went on a trip. So that's how, like, she got the trip paid. Like, yeah, they went on a trip and, like, as boyfriend and girlfriend, and, like, he picked up the check on something. Okay, he has a job. What the fuck? Like, now, if you can prove, now, look, here's where I would say there would be, like, impropriety. If they went on several trips and, like, he bought her a Mercedes, and then, like, you look and he's, like, overbilling the office, then I think you have an argument for impropriety. But I think it's a very simple thing of, like, what is his rate? Well, my rate is, he's a lawyer, right? My rate is $300 an hour. Okay, how much were you getting paid for this? $300 an hour.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't even think he gets an hourly rate because since he's being hired by the state, I'm pretty sure he gets a salary based on that.
Okay, so what was his salary? Was it wildly outside of what they would normally pay? Because that's the only argument. right? Because if
Right.
he is working at that job, like if you start dating someone at your job, right? And they pay you $50,000 a year, and you start like taking this person out to dinner. You know, you're working with this woman. You start taking her out to dinner, and you're paying for dinners and shit. It like that. There's no impropriety. That's what you got paid. Now, if that job was only supposed to pay minimum wage, and you were only supposed to make, you know, $25,000 a year, and all of a sudden you have this same job, but you have this outsized salary that's twice that, then that's where impropriety is. And you could be like, okay, this is what the job normally pays, and this is what you got paid, and that's completely different. That's an argument. Like they would have an argument.
Even if all of that is the case, it still has no bearing on this
Trump
specific case. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. But it would be an argument,
Right.
from a Trump perspective, Trump's lawyer's perspective, that this person, she's not a trustworthy person. She should be removed from the case. It shouldn't be that your case gets thrown out. By the way, that's not.
Well,
that
I don't.
nothing.
I don't think the case would get thrown out. Like
But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get her off and make it an argument to throw the case, which I think is bullshit.
It would be bad if she did get thrown off because like the argument that I've heard is that whoever comes in to replace her would either be from the federal side, which means that they might not be as, you know, gung ho to go after Trump, because I'm sure that they're probably a Republican on the federal side down there, or just the fact that she has a lot of experience trying RICO cases. Her office has a lot of experience trying RICO cases, and so her, you know, getting tossed off the case would you know, harm the actual trial itself, just because of that loss of expertise. That's all they're trying to do. And again, this is yet another delay tactic for them as well, which is really everything that his folks are trying to do, is just delay things as much as they possibly can.
Yeah,
more on that later.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, it's look, I get why he's trying to do it. It's just not very clever. Like, that's the thing. It's just not very clever.
But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be very clever.
It never is.
That's the thing is that they're, like, in this case, because they're just trying to manipulate procedure, it doesn't have to be clever. It can be as overt as it possibly can. And the problem is that only wonks like you and me and people listening to the show are going to care about it. Average people will not. Like, the average voter won't hear about this or care about it or even understand what's going on with this case. All they'll care about is if he actually has to stand trial, and if he actually gets convicted or acquitted of the charges that are laid against him. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a wild move, but like, it doesn't make any sense. It just like, and look, the easiest thing to do, and I'm sure they've thought of this, but the easiest thing to do is just be like, what did that guy make? That's it. Like, what is the salary? Bring in somebody from the government and be like, this is what they would normally pay this person. They would pay him X amount of money. How much did he make? He made X amount of money. I'm really not sure what the rest of the fucking conversation is. Like, you're allowed to be, like, I hated the argument, like, they went on a vacation and she paid for half and he paid for half. Even if they didn't. Even if that dude was like, I got it, balling out, we going to Jamaica, I'm paying for it. He's allowed to do that. It's his girlfriend. They have an adult relationship. I don't understand what the argument is that it has to be 50-50. Look, if it is, great, whatever, very modern. I support it. But like, it doesn't have to be. If that dude wants to pay 90% of the trip, if he wants to take his girlfriend out and, you know, pay for everything, he's allowed to do that. He's an adult. Again, the impropriety would be that if he is getting paid an extra amount of money that he would normally be paid, then you can make the argument. If that dude is making a standard salary, this fucking shit is done. And if I'm the judge, I'm like, we're done with this conversation. This is stupid. Move on to the actual case, because you don't have.
Well, and again, I'm pretty sure that if the defendant and actually Trump's not the one who brought the complaint. One of the other litigants in the that was charged in Georgia is the one that brought the complaint. But if Trump wasn't attached to this case, there's no way that we'd probably even be having this hearing right now.
No. And look, maybe it very well could be a part of the reason why they're continuing this, right? Like, let's get this all the way sort of, you know, ferreted out. That way there is no argument when you lose down the road.
Right. It's not an appealable issue.
Right. So. Like, we are done. Like, cool. Here's a picture of them, both of them putting in the same amount of cash and a picture, a fucking Polaroid of them at like Ocho Rios or whatever. Who the fuck cares? But as long as you understand that like your argument is dead and out. That's fine. But I think it's like you said, it's fucking makes no sense. It's a very silly argument. All right, next up. Look, if you are a premium member, you got to hear pretty decent rant from me. I like to keep them. I like to keep them inside these days. You know, it's not good for the heart. But here's another one. I don't
for serenity now, insanity later.
Yes, no shit. Man. Oh my God. Here's another one. Missouri law says pregnant women can't get divorced. Now, look, before this story, and I'll talk about this in a second. Before this story, I did not realize that there are 3 other states that do this. Texas,
and this isn't a new law, by the way. This is something that has apparently been on the books for quite some time.
Yeah. So Texas, Arizona, and I want to say Arkansas.
I bet you. Well, yeah, like I said, I'll just name like 5 states. Like it's probably either Arkansas, Idaho, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming.
It's Texas. It is Arkansas. Texas, Arizona, and Arkansas have similar laws, right? That if you are a woman and you're married, you cannot get a divorce while you are pregnant, right? The argument here is you're not allowed to get pregnant, or no judge can finalize a divorce until after you give birth. Part of it is like they don't want to have any undue stress, which is a weird thing to say about a divorce proceeding. Like, I'm trying to get the fuck out of here. I'm trying to reduce.
Yeah, like the undue stress is that I'm still married to this asshole. Like that's the undue stress that I'm
trying to beat it, man. I'm like beat feet. I want to get the hell out of town. But it is, no undue stress during that time. And also, like, we want to make sure that when the child is born, their parents are together or whatever. I'm like, dude, you're not making people get married if they have a child out of wedlock. So what the fuck is the point of that?
Let me tell you something. I may have talked about this on the show before. If not, then you hear for the first time. So my parents, they split up when I was they separated when I was 2, and they divorced when I was 3 years old. I don't have a single memory of my parents together, like living in the same household, raising us together, that sort of thing. I'm going to tell you right now, that is the best thing that my parents ever did for me is not giving me a memory, because I had plenty of friends whose parents divorced when they were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, that sort of thing. It's fucking scarring, man. Like you should be absolutely, if a pregnant woman wants to leave her husband, I'm sure there's a good reason for it. Absolutely should be letting that happen. Like, there should not be laws preventing this from being the case.
Yeah. Look, and I did a little video on TikTok about it, and there was a couple of women who were like, yeah, this is a thing. Like, I had a hard time getting a divorce lawyer when I was pregnant in like whatever states, and I'm like, yeah, I did not know this. Like, and I actually feel some kind of way about not knowing that. Like, that's insane to me. Like, I grew up in a blue state. Like, I didn't ever hear about these kind of fucking shenanigans. But that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. By the way, the Missouri law, and I'd have to look into the Arizona, Arkansas, and Texas laws, but the Missouri law specifically does not have a exception for domestic violence. So if you're beating on this pregnant woman, and that does in fact happen, I'll give you statistics on that. If you're beating on this woman, they still can't leave. Somebody made a really good point. I hadn't thought about this. They were like, isn't that constitutionally like violating? Don't you have like the right for like free association? Like, I don't have to associate with this person.
I don't know if this qualifies under the free association clause.
I mean, I guess you don't have to be with the person just because you're married to them. Like, you could leave, but a lot of people can't afford to do things like that, right? You can't just like, oh, I'm just going to leave the state, like start over and like, cool.
Well, and I don't know if you know this, but a lot of fucking dudes, especially abusive guys, are fucking psychopaths. Like, they will they'll do everything they can to track your ass down. Yeah, and things of that nature. So
yeah, so this article, it's a pretty light article, but it does talk about a report from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services says out of 10,000 women surveyed between 2007 and 2014, nearly 5% of them were abused before or during pregnancy. That equates to about 500 women out of 10,000, right? Now, I know somebody would say, well, that's only 500 women. One woman is too much, right? Like,
Right.
you're getting beaten and abused while you're pregnant? That's insane, right? Like, that's absolutely nuts.
Well, and the story came up because there's a Democratic state rep in Missouri that's trying to pass a law that overturns this. I cannot wait to watch Republicans throw up a giant brick wall in front of her movement to do this, even though it is idiotic to allow something like this to remain on the books.
Look, as I said in my little video I did about it, this is some hands-made tale bullshit. Like, this is one further step towards Gilead, right? Like, that's what these people want. Let's ban pornography. Let's ban casual sex, right? Like, only for the
no fault divorce. We got to get rid of that,
right? And that's exactly where I was that's exactly where I was going too, right? Like, no fault divorce came around what, the 1960s, I believe, right? 1970s, where it just allowed people to be like, I'm out, like, fuck this guy, I'm out of here, right? Like, you didn't need some like long justification, just like irreconcilable differences, right? And you take your ass to fucking Vegas and get it done, right? Like, in 9 minutes, like, I'm out of here. Republican men, like that Crowder asshole and some other people, are now pushing this out because his wife dumped him.
Left him, yeah.
Funny how that works, right?
Gee, I wonder where this comes from.
Yeah. But those guys are now pushing the idea, and it's not just like the fringe of the fringe, right? This is starting to slide into Republican mainstream shit, which is how it always works. They're trying to go after no-fault divorce, that a woman shouldn't just be able to go, I'm done. They have to have some major justification. Of course, I'm sure they'd have to go in front of a male judge who would be like, wait a minute.
Or a priest.
Yeah. So, it's like, it's that bad, right? Like, it's not like the idea that you couldn't just divorce somebody. You're like, yeah, I'm fucking done. Like, I'm an adult person. Like, by the way, ending no fault divorce also affects men, right? Like, it all equally, men are like, yeah, I don't want to be with this woman anymore. She's crazy, or like whatever reason, right? She's watching shows that we agreed to watch together on streaming. She's streeting, right? She's streeting, right? Serious issues.
Oh shit!
Like, no, it's an epidemic. But like, there are real reasons that people want to get the fuck away from people, right? You shouldn't have to then wait for the court system to determine whether or not that's okay, right? So these guys are actually going after that too. So no casual sex. No pornography, no more no-fault divorces, no IVF,
no contraception,
no contraception, and no abortion.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have to assume the next thing coming up, and this sounds crazy, but is it? Can women really open their own bank accounts without their husband's permission? Can they have credit cards without their husband's permission? Can women work in certain offices, right? Like, these are 1950s thought processes, but they are all sliding back. All of it.
I understand that, you would look at this and say, man, there's a really compelling reason not to ever vote for any Republicans. And I would agree with you. But again, on the other side, there is a never-ending flow of inherent racism. That you can like that well is never empty on that side.
That's true.
So,
like, you can have both. You can just have both.
Yeah.
But again, both sides, guys. Both sides.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure there's a lot of dudes who are like, I am going to miss casual sex, but as long as I can be really racist towards black people, like that's really what I care about. And also, don't tax me.
Yeah. That's it. Taxation is theft, Brad.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. You say taxation is theft. I think, I don't know, man, building roads and shit is cool. I say you can take porn from my cold, dead hand, right? Like, probably more warm hand. But nonetheless, like, like the idea of, but in all seriousness, like the idea of the freedom to watch pornography, like that's a freedom, like as long as it's like above board type of shit, like, you know, the freedom to watch that, like that's an inherent freedom that people have. We have a freedom to be gross, disgusting monsters in our privacy of our own homes. And also the freedom to have casual sex with another consenting adult. There is nothing to me that like that is such a fundamental, like you get to share your bed with who you want to, right? Because
and again, like we talk about the unintended consequences of Republican laws all the time. Like, you want to see sexual assaults go through the roof? Outlaw casual sex in some way, shape, or form, because men aren't going to just stop having sex. Like, they're going to be like, I still would like to have sex, even though I am single. Well, you can't have casual sex. Cool. I can just rape somebody then. That's what I can do.
Right. Because, by the way, this story about this woman, you know, women not being able to get divorced, this is also, what was the term I saw? It's something like pregnancy coercion. Right, I think the article does it. Like that's a thing, and I didn't know what that meant. Right, I was like, let me Google this because I sort of kind of understand like just from context, but I didn't quite understand what it meant. Like these abusive guys like purposely getting their wives pregnant. Like you beat on them all the time or whatever, and then when you have sex and they're like, well, let's use, you know, a condom or birth control. Like they don't, you know, they like take the condom off and shit like that, so that they can then get them pregnant and stuff like that.
Yeah, works the other way too, by the way. Like not 100% a male 100%. Phenomenon. Yeah,
no, 100%. But doing shit like that so that they have to stick around, right? Like that's a real thing. So like, this is insane. This is insane. And look, by the way, I think that's a valid point. There is going to be the other side of this, right? Women who get pregnant just so the husband can't leave, right? Because I have to assume this law ties them both together. It's not just like, well, the man can leave or whatever. Like I saw people saying that, but that doesn't really make sense, right? Like the law is dumb on its face, but it's equally dumb on both sides of that coin, right? So I'm sure the guy is locked into that too. But if a woman is like, I stopped taking my birth control, I'm crazy, now I'm pregnant, and you got to stay with me, that's fucked up. That's not cool either, right? It's just the focus is on the woman because they're incredibly vulnerable in that moment, right? Like a pregnant woman is more vulnerable, like just in fucking every way physically, right? So that's why the article is aimed that way, and that's why I started my conversation out that way. But it's equally as possible that it goes the other way too. But it's fucking terrifying. So yeah, and to your point, you outlaw casual sex, yes, sexual assault will skyrocket. It will. It's just a fact, right? We don't need that type of shit. How about you just let people live their lives and, you know, have laws in place so people are punished for terrible behaviors, but let them live their lives for like normal shit, like casual sex.
Jay,
is the most normal
that's not the Christian way. Let's get serious for a second.
That's true. I mean, like under his eye or whatever, man. Jesus Christ.
Look. I appreciate them. They're trying to save all of us from an eternity in damnation.
Okay,
we're the ones that are ungrateful, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me all the time, why did you move? I don't know, man. Look, I can tell you,
you moved to a more Catholic country, though, Jay.
But they're not trying to do this. None of them are trying to do this. I've not heard a single announcement. I've not heard a single announcement on LTV that says we are trying to ban casual sex. Absolutely not. This is not a thing here. So, yeah, it's just fucking crazy. It's absolutely insane. Let the crazy continue. All right. Next up,
back-to-back stories about how Joe Biden, the famous do-nothing president. Why would we want to vote for him again? Because he doesn't do anything, Jay.
He doesn't. A lot of people are saying that. They're uninformed, but a lot of people are saying that. The Biden administration has announced a $1.7 billion, that's with a B, billion-dollar package to fund initiatives aimed at ending hunger across the United States by 2030. The commitment will go towards funding 141 projects across the nation. The full details of the package are expected to be announced by Doug Emhoff, the husband of Vice President Kamala Harris, at an event at the White House later on Tuesday. Look, that is significant. I think it's great. The one thing in this article that I found to be hilarious is it will provide for a, it says the funding builds on an $8 billion already committed to fighting hunger in September 2022. By the way, that's kind of a big deal. $8 billion already committed. Okay. Again, he doesn't do anything. What has he done for black people? I don't know, man. Probably $8 billion to fight hunger probably helped, I don't know, a few black people.
Remember when the Inflation Reduction Act had the thing in there that, had the child tax credit and people were getting money throughout the year, and it cut childhood hunger in half. And then remember when that came up to renew, and Republicans and Joe Manchin were like, nah, we don't need to do this again.
Yep.
And then childhood hunger went back up.
Yeah,
that was cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah,
and then at the same time, I remember Republicans going, "Look at child hunger has skyrocketed under Biden."
Right.
It's like, dude,
we're all looking for the guy that did this.
Like, what the fuck? Look what they've done to us. Yeah, it's just fucking insane. Like, it's absolutely nuts. So. Yeah, it's the funny part of the article is, quote, it will provide for a public awareness campaign by the Harlem Globetrotters in partnership with charity Kaboom, which will build at least 30 playgrounds over the next 3 years in communities with less access to playgrounds. Look, I think that's really awesome and adorable. That is the most old man thing I've ever heard. Like, Joe Biden's like, why don't we get the Harlem Globetrotters out there? Dude, kids don't know who the fuck the Harlem Globetrotters are.
You know who they do know? They know who the Savannah Bananas are. You got to get with the times, Joe Biden.
What the fuck is the Savannah Bananas?
The Savannah Bananas are basically the Harlem Globetrotter, but for baseball. They're like a traveling baseball team that does goofy Globetrotters-esque shit.
Oh, really? Okay. See, I've never heard of the Savannah Bananas.
You got to get your TikTok algorithm right, Jay. That's what you got to do.
Look. It sounds like it's probably just fine. Savannah Bananas sounds like something the Republican Party would ban from you looking at on the internet. Yeah. This is just really funny. I'm just like, okay. The Harlem Globetrotters, can we try maybe a slightly newer concept? But it's fine. But look, I think it's great. $1.7 billion, again, added on to the already $8 billion that have been committed to fighting hunger around the country. Again, people will make the argument, why aren't we using any of our money that we're sending to Ukraine to help people here? But they are, though.
Turns out you can walk and chew gum at the same time. I don't know if you know this, but America got a lot of money.
Tons
all the time.
Yeah, it's just, again, we the information is all it's all right here. It's all on the laptop, and people are just like, I can't find it. I can't. They're Derek Zoolander in where they're dressed like the monkeys, and they're just like, the data's in the computer, and they're just bang on it. Like, they just can't figure it out.
It is easy. It's easy to be blind, Jay, when you don't want to see. That's all I'm saying. So
yeah, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong.
Yeah. Just again, remember when Joe Biden had a really aggressive student debt cancellation plan, and the Supreme Court wouldn't let him do it the way he wanted to. So he did a little bit, and people are like, "Oh, Joe Biden fucked this up," and it's like, no, he literally tried. Like, this other branch of government was like, no, you can't do that. Well, guess what? Another $1.2 billion in student debt that will impact 153 borrowers is going to be canceled. 153,000 borrowers is being canceled. And by the way, 6 months ahead of schedule. This plan was originally supposed to roll out in July, and it's rolling out now. So basically, if you were in the SAVE plan, if you enrolled in it, and you took out $12,000 or less in student loans, and you've made repayments for 10 years, you get, your debt's forgiven, just completely gone. Like, congratulations, you don't owe anything anymore. And if you took out more than $12,000, you'll be eligible for cancellation. But basically, So the way it's a little complicated here, but if you borrowed more than $12K, for every $1,000 you borrowed above $12,000, you can receive forgiveness after an additional year payments over the top 10 years. So basically, if you borrowed $20,000, let's say, you'd have to do 18 years of payments, and then the rest of your student debt will be forgiven. That's how it works. Yeah.
Again, Brad, like the thing I would argue is, remember when Donald Trump gave people $600? That's it.
Yeah. Remember when Joe Biden gave you the other $1,400?
Yeah. Yeah. No, but what about the 600, Brad? And this is the most frustrating thing to me, is that young people, there's a contingent of young people who refuse to get this information that is readily available to them. And then there's the other sect of young people who are screaming of like, dude, this guy is trying to help. It ain't perfect, but this guy is trying to help. And then the media is like, buddy's old though. That's it. Like there's no, by the way, there's quite literally no argument in the media right now outside of two arguments against Joe Biden. And actually, I would make it really one, right? No one is really in the media arguing about what he's doing in Gaza is bad, because the media is pretty hyper-focused, like Israel's 100% correct. So they don't really hit Joe Biden really that much on that. They may report that other people are not pleased about it, but the media generally doesn't hit him on it, which is fucking bullshit, and they should. But the one thing that they hit him on is like, this dude's old. Like that's it. They don't have anything else.
There's literally at least 10 times more coverage of the fact that he mistakenly said that the president of Egypt was the president of Mexico in that press conference, as there is for something like this. This is something that actually has an impact on people's lives. The other thing is just a slip of the tongue. By the way, it's not a slip of the tongue? Saying Nikki Haley like 6 times in a row when you're actually thinking of Nancy Pelosi. Like, that's not a slip of the tongue. That's your fucking idiot.
Yeah, your brain. Like 2 weeks. Like he does, like he's out of his mind, right? So yeah, it's the idea of them they're trying desperately to make it a horse race, right? Because it helps their ratings. Like they don't have anything. What are you gonna? The economy is going quite well, but is it going as well as we thought? No, it's going better than you thought. Like it's
and voters are actually like starting to feel remember how like the leading indicators were dragging like everyone in government and in the high, like at the Fed were like, oh, things are going really great, and voters are like, I don't really see it. Well, guess what? A lot of normal people are starting to be like, yeah, I can actually see it now. Like it's pretty cool. Gas is a little bit cheaper than it was. The grocery prices are starting to either level out or come down a little bit, that sort of thing.
Right.
So that's cool.
Right. And look, these are all good things. Like people are so enamored by the horse race that they're not paying attention to the actual shit that's going on. Like that, if I'm being honest, and it drives me crazy. Look. Is food more expensive and stuff like that? Yeah. Is that an inflation issue? I would argue it's not. It's a gouging issue. No. It's a gouging issue.
That's a corporate issue. So
right.
But again, that's why you have.
Go ahead.
I will say, but that's why you have a campaign, so that Joe Biden can go out there and his surrogates can go out there and talk about this stuff, and then people can say, "Oh, is that true?" And then hopefully they'll find the story where it's like, "Oh, yes, it is true."
Yeah, it turns out. Yeah, I mean, like the CEO of Kellogg got in trouble this week. Was like. What's the problem, guys? Why don't you just have cereal for dinner? They're like, yeah, we're poor. And he's like, a bowl of cereal is a fine dinner. It's great.
Look, I've had the
Jerry,
bowl of cereal.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah. Relax.
I've had a bowl of cereal for dinner on occasion over my many years of life, but I don't need the fucking CEO of Kellogg suggesting that to me. Sorry.
I mean, he's just trying to line his pockets. And he knows goddamn well that people do not want to have cereal for dinner. They want to have a substantial dinner, dude. Like cereal for breakfast is, I got to get out the door. Like, eat it. Right. Cool. I feel good. I got to get out the door. It's not supposed to be a meal. It's in a tight situation, a meal replacement. It ain't supposed to replace a fucking chicken dinner at night. Like, that's ridiculous. But it's insane. But price gouging is a real thing. And Biden seems to be starting to kind of address that. I've seen a couple of things about that.
Not starting to. He's been on that for months and months and months. Like he's been one to go out there and attack corporations, and he should, because again, like corporations constantly are talking out of both sides of their mouth, where it's like, we haven't seen profits this good literally ever. Like, we're like record profits year after year after year. Oh, but we're we got to tighten our belt. We got to cut jobs. We got to do this, that, or the other thing. Right. Like, it's really tough out there. It's a tough labor environment. Ooh, these tariffs really sting. Like, this really fucking sucks. Like, both of these things should not be happening at the same time.
Yeah, not shouldn't. They can't be happening at the same time.
Oh, no, they can if you're just callous and worried about the bottom line and making shareholders profit. They absolutely can happen at the same time. Logically, they should not be happening at the same time.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's just wild. It's absolutely wild to me. All right, let's go into the next story. Ronna McDaniel resigns as head of the RNC after Trump made her sad. Big Ron, she's done. She says she will step down next month as chairwoman of the Republican National Committee following former President Donald Trump's endorsement of a new slate of leaders to direct the party. You are a fucking clown. McDaniel's decision follows Saturday's South Carolina primary and came less than 2 weeks after Trump endorsed North Carolina GOP chairman Michael Whatley to be the next chairman of the RNC, his daughter-in-law Lara Trump to be the co-chair, and top campaign aide Chris LaCivetta to be the party's chief operating officer. Look, it's unsurprising. Once that sword was hanging over her head, it was a wrap. Like, it was a wrap for her. She says,
I'm very curious to see if the folks in the RNC will actually elect his dumb daughter-in-law.
Yes, they will.
They will be the co-chair.
They will, dude. They will. You know they will. They're scared of him. They're scared, and they should be scared. She is going to bleed that fucking organization dry, and I can't wait. There's a report, I think it was by April or June, the RNC will be tapped the fuck out of money.
Yeah, like you're gonna have like fucking down ballot candidates in state races. Like, I just need like $20,000, and then Lara Trump's be like, no soup for you. Sorry, like, Donald needs his legal fees paid.
Like, no. Yeah, look, good. This could not happen to a better set of dickbags. I tell you what, like, it's too good. It's just too good. The idea, just the sheer idea of watching this party get drained by that fucking. She's a succubus, but she's like a succubus, like, for a larger succubus, right? Like she's just doing the bidding of the largest orange succubus, and she's just gonna drain. She's gonna drain every dime out of the RNC. And she came out the other day. And said, I think voters want us to give all the RNC money to Donald Trump. Are you sure about that? I don't think they do.
You know who I bet doesn't want to see you give all the money to Trump to pay his legal fees? The donors who actually gave you the money. I would bet they have a different opinion.
Nah, dude, this shit is lit. Look, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. Okay, so let's take a bet.
Okay.
What they're saying somewhere between April and June. When do you think we get a story that the RNC is completely out of money?
Oh my god. I kind of hope it happens in like August when they really need it the most. Like when campaigns are really like, the primaries are over, and the general like the march to the general is really in earnest, and Democrats are like, look at all this fucking money we have, like, this is great, we can buy all this advertising and have this great ground game and knock on doors and phone bank and all this stuff. Republicans like, where's our money? And they'd be like,
what money?
let me look at the couch cushions here real quick and see if I can scrounge up a couple of coins for you.
Dude, look, I am waiting. August is a good time. That's a good time frame. It's very optimistic that they'll have money by then, but I agree. As far as the timeline, I don't think they're gonna have money by August.
You're gonna see Norman like it's gonna be like the beginning of Donkey Kong Country when like DK like goes into his banana hoard mine and all the bananas were stolen by all the Kremlings and just like what the fuck happened? He's like, well, he took all the bananas, bro. Sorry.
You're gonna have to ride a bee to the end, dude, and fight a pirate. Yeah, you're fucked. Like it's gonna be wonderful to watch. I'm waiting to see, like, the House now. I think is within 4, right? We're within 4 votes of
that sounds right.
Of taking the House. Like the Senate, they are going to suffer, right? Because the Senate races cost even more money, right? That's going to be a problem.
I'm worried about the Senate for Democrats this year. I mean, not that there is a good Democratic Senate map, but this one in particular is pretty challenging. So I'm a little concerned. But I'll feel a lot better if Republicans don't have any fucking money except for whatever super PACs they can draw from.
I got to tell you, I'm a bit less concerned, right? Because of specifically because of the story. But here's the thing: even when people like. Okay, let's say that the RNC is totally drained. Let's say it will.
Well, and before you get there, consider this too. Like if people know that's where the money's going, not only are they going to drain the coffers of what's already in there, but you're going to have a lot of donors that are like, well, I'm not giving any more fucking money. like if it's just going to be turned around to pay for this asshole's legal fees, like I'm not writing a check. Sorry.
Yeah.
Kiss my ass.
Like it's so. Let's say the RNC, and I agree with you. I think there is a chance that people just pull back from giving money to the RNC, right? But let's say the RNC is drained, and you've got Trump out there, and like Trump is still going to need money. Like he's still going to need, like that's the thing is, even if it's drained, let's say by August, right? And again, I think that's being incredibly forgiving, and I think you're just talking about the timeline would be funny, but I don't think they're going to have that kind of money by then. He's still going to be in the throes of 4 other cases. He's in a world of fucking trouble, right? Let alone the money he still owes to New York, and every single day he doesn't pay, it's $114,000 added to it.
It's awesome.
Holy shit, dude! What the fuck is he going to do, right? So he still has money that he needs to give up. The $500 million that he needs to give up, don't have that.
He doesn't have to pay that money. Like as Chish James says, like look, like if he doesn't want to pay the money while he appeals, like there's a lot of buildings that we can take over.
Yoink! I would take Trump Tower immediately. Immediately.
Oh, that's the first one she's gonna fucking.
Oh yeah, dude! Like fucking again. That's the like a migrant welcome center. Like get the fuck out of here immediately. But. So he's still going to need money. The Senate races take up big swaths of cash because they're statewide races, right? So Republicans have a more favorable Senate map this year. But that means they have more races to run, which means that money is that much thinner because of this shit with Lara Trump. Then you have the House races. Now, the House races don't cost as much money, but the people in those races need money when they need it real bad, right? Mitch McConnell, for instance, running. Mitch McConnell, he needs money, to run ads. I'm just giving you an example. He needs money to run ads. But Mitch McConnell is a name. So he doesn't need, if he doesn't get the money, he could probably still push pretty hard because he's Mitch McConnell, right? Name a Republican senator, Ted Cruz, for instance, can just run on their name. That can get them pretty far.
I don't know that Ted Cruz can just run on his name.
No.
Honestly, this year.
No, but I'm just saying from people knowing who he is. Right, not Ted Cruz personally, just because people hate him. He's in a world of trouble, by the way. I think he's legitimately in a world of trouble. So they can still run based on just being who they are and people knowing who they are. But if you're running in a House race, people generally don't know who you are. right? Like you're small potatoes, right? Unless you're like a Marjorie Taylor Greene type person who's in the news all the time. Let alone,
but she's also in a non-competitive district.
No, I'm just saying if you're just in the House, right? And like she's a big name in the House because she's who she is. This is my point. Mm-hmm. But if you're a person running newly for the House as a Republican, nobody knows who the fuck you are. That's when you really need the support of the party. But that money's not going to be there. The money is not there. And again, they can throw $10,000 or $20,000 to a House race and it make a big fucking difference. By the way, at the same time, Democrats have a fucking war chest where they can just go, oh, you're running against fucking Joe Nobody and the RNC can't help them? Bam, here's $20,000. Blow their ass out the water, right? That's it. So that makes those House races that much more competitive for Democrats. The Senate races, if it's a Democrat running in re-election and you got a new Republican coming in, that Republican's fucked. Because they're not going to they can't afford to throw big money at a big race. And by the way, if you really want to fuck the Republican Party, Democrats, make every Senate race as competitive as you can. Because then they really got to spend money. And that's money they don't even have. So, look, Lara Trump being in that position and having the thought process that she has is about to fuck the Republican Party in a big way. I think they will likely lose the Senate if she's allowed to do what she's talking about doing. I absolutely think so. I think you could end up with a Biden 2 years where he has control of everything. I really do. Because, again, that's on top of all of their terrible policies or lack thereof, all of that shit, and then just not having money to push. Money is how these guys are allowed, even with shitty policies, they can still get their names out and just be like, buy Menon, right? Like they're just fucking, their name is out there like all the time. But if it's not, people forget. They do. They don't know you. So,
like I said, I would love her to come in and just like leave the RNC as this hollowed out husk. And then for everyone, for like Republicans to lose big in 24, and then they're all going to be standing there like, what the fuck just happened? And we could just sit here from the side and be like, dude, we told you.
Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.